What's up, Bar Squad?
Hey guys.
Welcome back to week 3 of our series. This is the final week in our leader series. I got Mike here with me today. Mike, thanks for being here. Mike, can you give us a little intro of yourself? Who's Mike?
My name is Mike. I am the leader of the 10th grade house and been married for 22 years now. Have a little girl named Lola. She's 8 years old. Loves Camp Reno, and I love running, jiu-jitsu, and paddleboarding. Kind of 3 things that I do pretty extensively.
Yeah, that's it. Mike runs the Surf City Biathlon.
Yep.
Had the pleasure to see that and his leadership past few years. It's been really cool. And then who doesn't love Camp Reno?
That's right.
We love Camp Renovate here at RSQUAD. So today we are finishing up our series, like I said, on how to read the Bible. Today we're talking about rhythms. So I'm gonna give us a brief definition of what rhythms is. What is a rhythm? A rhythm is a strong, regular, repeated pattern of movement or sound. We're not talking about movement and sound today, but we are talking about daily rhythms in our life. This episode is going to be a little unconventional. We're going to have a real conversation. Mike and I are going to talk to you about daily rhythms of your life and spending time with God. So you may eat the same thing every day. You may go to the gym. There's a lot of things that can be a daily rhythm in your life. So Mike, the same question we've asked all our leaders this past series is, what were you like as a teenager? And then to add for our rhythms here, did you have any rhythms at that time, and how have they changed till now?
All right, 3 questions at once. I love it.
Yeah. So it's big
All
one.
right, I'll break it down. Me as a teenager, man, on the surface, I really looked like I had it going on and I had everything right. I got good grades in school. I interacted with my teachers well. I was kind of a class clown, but I did it in a way where the teachers actually kind of thought it was funny, so I didn't get in trouble a whole lot. I was captain of my wrestling team. When I wasn't wrestling, I had a job and did really well with that job. Got promoted inside of that. And just on the surface, if you looked at me, you're like, man, this guy has got it together. But I didn't. Under the surface, I didn't know it at the time, but I was a dumb teenager. At the time, I thought I knew everything, ironically, but I look back and I can see how little I actually did know. And I fell into traps. I did some dumb stuff as a teenager. I think a lot of teenagers do. And I look back and I'm trying to figure out, like, well, man, I had so many good things going for me. Where did the dumb mistakes come from? Like, how did I fall into these traps? And looking back, it's very clear for me now. I can see it just as plain as day. Growing up, we did not have Jesus in my life at all. My parents never went to church. They still don't go to church. So I never learned about Jesus as a kid, as a middle schooler, even into high school. I just had no relationship with him because it wasn't talked about in my household. My parents, they weren't getting up early on Sunday to go to church, and as a teenager, I had no knowledge or know what I was missing, so I didn't fight for it either. And crazily, all that changed. I was at lunch one day just sitting with our group. I was a sophomore in high school. We had a group of friends that kind of sat at this table. It was about 8 of us. And we were all sophomores. We had the same lunch. And this girl who I was kind of friends with, her name was Jennifer. She's sitting, a couple chairs away from me at our table, and she was in my friend circle. Her older brother, who was either skipping class or on a long bathroom break or something, came in the lunchroom and sat with us for a couple minutes. And I don't even remember his name, but he looked at me and he said, "Hey, this Friday night, my church is having a teenager revival.
Mm-hmm.
You want to come?" And I said, "Well, I don't go to church," because I didn't. And he said, "Well, that's perfect. This night is for people that don't go to church."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, man, whatever." And he gave me his card, and I was like, "All right." I stuck it in my pocket, and it stayed in my pocket. And I know now what got me there, but at the time I had no idea why. But I actually went. And I pull up in the parking lot, and I'm by myself, and I don't know anybody there per se because I don't know who's going to be there because I've never been. And I went in, listened to the worship music, found that guy that invited me. He gave me a big high five, heard a message. It genuinely touched me in my core, in my heart, my soul in a way that I've never experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And right there that night, I accepted Jesus Christ into my life.
Yeah.
And that guy came up, he gave me a big hug, and what's crazy about this story, like that's the night that, I accepted Jesus into my life. And to this day, I don't know that guy's name.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an important moment. Like, I should know his name, but it's not that he's insignificant. He actually got to see, the fruit of his labor. He got to see what happened with me from his invite. I just tell, like, the RSQUAD kids, like, seriously, you don't have to invite your best friend. You don't have to invite somebody that you know is going to say yes.
Yeah.
This guy didn't really know me, and there was no reason a kid like me who didn't know Jesus at all should have said yes.
Yeah.
But his invitation kind of turned into my salvation.
Yeah.
So that's me as a high schooler. You talked about rhythms. I will tell you that as a teenager, my rhythms for the day were really kind of around seeking approval.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I was good at sports. I was good at school. I was good at work. And I did that stuff, and I worked really hard to try to get approval, right? Everybody loves positive reinforcement, right?
Yeah.
So I look back now and I see that, my rhythms were kind of developed around seeking positive feedback, positive approval from a lot of different sources: teachers, coaches, bosses, my parents, when I could get their attention. And what's changed, is that now, having Jesus in my life, it's so much easier. I just seek approval from him.
Yeah.
Right. My daily prayer is that, my time, talents, and treasures can be used to honor him. Mm-hmm. And it's so much easier just seeking approval from one source as opposed to 1,000 sources.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's a great story. We're starting off strong here, RSQUAD. This is good. And
got deep.
Yeah, got deep. So we're talking, man, Mike is a teenager. He was led to salvation, and now we get to see your story unfold to these kids as we go through talk about rhythms today, and just how you've grown over those years. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that story. Thanks for coming ready for that. So, we're gonna move on to we could see through Mike's story, Jesus at work, and we want to see Jesus at work in your lives too. So, the past couple weeks, we've talked about not only reading the Bible in context. We talked about soaping through the Bible and how you can make it applicable to your life. And today, talking about rhythms, we want to establish a daily time to where we get to spend time with Jesus. So today, we're suggesting that you have a time every day that you spend with God. We are calling it a daily rhythm of spending time with God. There's a lot of names you can give it to it. We're giving it that name, daily rhythm to spend time with God. So, a lot of times it can be really hard to start these rhythms. And you talked a little bit about how your rhythms have changed over time, but we're talking like Bible reading, prayer right now. Mike, when you were starting out a rhythm to spend time with God, how did that look? Like, what were the challenges you faced?
Well, for me, not having grown up in the church and not really knowing what even quiet time, devotion was supposed to look like, I'd kind of, would see pictures of it. And, the great Instagram picture is a perfect leather bound notebook. Yeah. This Bible that's, worn out and it's been read 1,000 times, and this cup of coffee that's still got steam coming off of it with the person's favorite Bible verse on it. And in the background, you can see the sun rising over the intercoastal waterway. And I looked at that and I'm like, oh man, I don't even like coffee. Yeah. And I can't see the waterway from my house, and my Bible's new, and I don't have a leather-bound books or notebook or journal. So for me, I looked at that and I was like, that's not me. Yeah. This isn't how I would do it. Yeah. So that was the big struggle, of like trying to figure out what works for me. Yeah. Because your quiet time and my quiet time might be completely different. Yeah. So that was the hardest part, honestly, is just trying to figure out what's it supposed to look like and how do I fit it into my routine. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that question, because, like, man, what is this supposed to look like was something I asked myself too. And really, like, I remember seeing like pictures like that, and the big thing that stuck out to me is like everyone had a whole bunch of highlighters, and I was like, I'm not a highlighter guy. I just was not. I was not the guy who was turning pages and putting 8 different colors on the one page. I was like, I actually had a thing about the pages looking perfect, because I was like a perfectionist as a kid. So I was like, can't mess this up. And so I didn't want to do that. And then there were other times, like you're talking about coffee, like I don't even like coffee either. And so I'm looking at my quiet time, and I just didn't understand like where to get going with it. And I started small.
with a little Bible plan. Took me like 2 minutes in the morning. And, the challenges are like sometimes I'd miss that morning. I hated waking up and I'd miss it. And I'd be like, oh, man, I get so like on to myself. But I think a good point is like, hey, not only are you going to face challenges with the quiet time and like how it looks for you, but like once you start, just push through. If you miss a day, just go on to the next one and start strong. So, yeah, great start already with starting our quiet times. So we're gonna read a passage of scripture. Mike's got it for us. He's gonna read it, and then we're gonna talk about it.
All right, Psalms 119, 105 through 112. Your word is a lamp to guide my feet and a light for my path. I've promised it once, and I'll promise it again. I will obey your righteous regulations. I have suffered much, O Lord. Restore my life again, as you promised. Lord, accept my offering of praise and teach me your regulations. My life constantly hangs in the balance, but I will not stop obeying your instructions. The wicked have set their traps for me, but I will not turn from your commandments. Your laws are my treasure. They are my heart's delight. I am determined to keep your decrees to the very end.
Yeah. Wow. So much to unpack in there. Like what sticks out to you here? What do you find in these scriptures?
All of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I love it all. For me, especially having the background that I've had where I've fallen into traps, that part where it says the wicked have set their traps for me, but I will not turn from your commandments. That really resonates with me because, when I was a teenager, I was leading, on the mats in wrestling. I was leading in the classroom. I was leading at work, and I didn't have anybody to follow. I didn't have a guiding light. I didn't have a lantern. So it's like I'm running through the woods and it's dark and I'm just picking and choosing which way to turn based on, my own thoughts.
Yeah.
And because of that, I couldn't see well and I fell into traps.
Yeah.
But once I brought Jesus into my life, it really is a light and it lights the path. And now I can see these traps a little bit better and hopefully not fall in them as much.
Yeah, no, you bring up great points there. Like those traps that are in that verse can be like equated to so many different things. They could be, different things in our culture wanting us to fail, but it could also be like, man, these are hard times I'm experiencing, and they're ruts, lows of life. You can equate them to a lot. And I think like one thing that sticks out to me in this verse is definitely that first line. A lamp to guide my feet, and a light on my path. Talking about daily rhythms here today, it's like we'll be in those hard moments and we'll be in those days and we'll find ourselves in those traps. Especially like as a teenager, it's even easier because you're around culture and influence so much. And so at least that's my opinion. It's easier as a teenager. People can disagree with me on that, but so with that, like starting your day with the Bible as a lamp and a guide to your path is I think is a very great way to start your day. So talking about daily rhythms here, it's like if you could start your day in the Word and posture yourself around Jesus and His attitude and His grace as you walk into your days. I think like a great application point for the scripture is know you will face those traps. Know that you will experience hard times, but like, man, if you start your day in the Word, and you start on a quiet time, a daily rhythm in your life, you'll do good things. So, yeah. So, Mike, we're getting right into it right here. What does your personal daily rhythms look like?
So for me, like I told you, I don't like coffee, and I'm not real good at sitting still. Lots of energy, love to do things, and so since I was a quote unquote grown up out of college, I started running and run marathons and ultra marathons. And for the past 20 some years, I've run anywhere from 5 to 12 hours a week, and I found for me, if I can do a daily devotion before I run, I can go out and I can run and my head is clear and I have a horrible attention span. But if I'm running for a solid hour, I've got time to get squirreled.
Yeah.
So I can run and I can meditate on that verse. And if I see a squirrel, whatever, and then I come back to it. And for me, it's just that time, having that solid hour of quote unquote quiet time where I'm moving and my body is engaged and my mind can just wander and talk to God and hear Him. for me, that's Mike White's perfect time.
Yeah.
Now, if you hate running, that's not going to work for you. But,
Yeah.
For me, there's just never been a time where I felt closer to God than whenever I'm able to just have, plant the seed with the daily devotion.
Yeah.
And then just meditate on it while I run.
Yeah.
So for me, that's my favorite quiet time in the world. And I miss it. I miss it genuinely if I don't get it.
Yeah.
So
no, it's awesome. It's a great, like, and unique way to look at a daily rhythm is, man, you're running, you're thinking about God in those moments. And I think that's like an encouragement to a lot of students too, is it looks different for different people. I mean, my quiet time, my daily rhythms, like, they look different than yours, but we're still both spending time with God. My daily rhythms, they look a lot. I'm a big systems guy. So I'm like, man, I don't know why. Like, I wasn't always like that, but I started into this. And so my brothers can probably attest to this too. I wake up, I drink a bottle of water. That's something I started doing. It actually wakes me up. I heard that from a podcast. And
smart.
Yeah, so then I go into the bathroom and I'm just in worship I grew up, my mom was singing all the time, and I'm in worship music all the time. And so the part that my brothers can probably attest to is, yeah, Ben sings all throughout his like bathroom, morning, like everything, like Ben's singing. So, and I love it. And then I sit down in the Word, and I pray, and then I get throughout my day. So it's just, we want to encourage you, like, quiet times look different, daily rhythms look different, and how you spend time with God is something that you do have to make time for in the morning. So you may not know where to start. We told you some challenges of where we started, but there is a structure in both of ours, which is, man, we set time aside. And so we're encouraging you, set time aside for those daily rhythms. That's just a starting point for you guys. We want you guys to walk away today knowing you can start a daily rhythm and have this daily time with God. So, not perfect at it still. I still have my days, but that's a good place to start. So, Mike, last thing, we'll wrap it up. Anything you'd like to encourage RSQUAD with as they go and start daily rhythms, knowing now how to read the Bible in many different facets?
All right. You know how to read the Bible. You know how to read the Bible properly and apply it. Now you have to do it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work if you don't do it. And it's a daily thing, right? So you have to establish a rhythm. You have to establish a time of day that works for you. Yeah. And again, I believe wholeheartedly that first thing in the morning is the best, because it's like lighting that lamp in the morning.
Yeah.
You know? If you're going to turn the lamp on, turn it on now.
Yeah.
Let's get it started early. But maybe you can't. Maybe you're just too rushed in the morning and you've got to squeeze it in. You have to carve that time out somewhere else.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, the one thing I'll tell you, without fail, I'm a very busy person, work, father, husband, RSQUAD leader, like all the things. I heard this quote and I love it. It grounds me all the time. If you're too busy for God, you're busier than he intended you to be.
Yeah.
He invented you and he invented time, and he invented you to use some time to talk to him.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I'll tell you is, if you want a relationship with Jesus or anybody for that matter, your friends, your parents, a boyfriend, girlfriend, every relationship is the same. And especially with Jesus, you've got to show up, you have to open up, and you have to follow up.
Yeah.
Right? So show up every day. Show up every day. Your quiet time tomorrow might not be as good as today's quiet time, but that doesn't mean you quit.
Yeah.
Just come back tomorrow and show up again. And you open up during your time, you talk to God, you share your heart with God, and then you follow up with God. And God's really easy to follow up with. Yeah. He's always on the line. Prayer is the way.
Yeah.
So you follow up with him through prayer, and that is my advice. Show up every day, open up to him, and follow up with him.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. Last thing, hey, if you hit a rut, if you miss a morning, Mike's right. You need to show up. If you miss one, start the next day. It's gonna be great. We said it before, but yeah, that's it for episode. Mike, thank you for being here. Start a daily rhythm, RSQUAD. You have the tools. You are able to do this. So RSQUAD, thank you. Mike, thanks again. Peace.
Peace.